Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinker with Tools. Today we're going to be talking about a brand new drill and impact driver on the M12 lineup. So let's go ahead and get into that on Tinker with Tools. So here they are, the subcompact drill and impact driver that Milwaukee is just coming out with. And I think with a lot of tool companies, we've seen over the years that they've shown some neglect for their 12-volt lineups in favor of producing more compact 18 to 20-volt variety tools. But we've certainly not seen that with Milwaukee's M12 lineup. Milwaukee seems to have the philosophy that there are certain tools that perform better or do better on an M12 lineup versus some of them are going to make more sense on their M18. But I always was curious if what we were going to get was still going to be worth it from a performance standpoint, or if this was more just going to be a replacement for some of the older legacy brush tools that we've seen on the M12 lineup as the only non-fuel variety. Now, in comparison to either the M12 fuel or those M12 brush tools, these are going to represent a pretty big reduction in size. The drill driver is going to be 5.4 inches, easily the shortest drill that they make. The impact driver going to be 4.3 inches. While that length is not necessarily the shortest impact driver on the market, with the Walt having their 850 that is just really compact, in terms of how slender the head is with how short it is, they really have fit an impressive amount of performance, I believe, in this compact of a tool head. When you hold it, it almost feels like your hand or the handle is easily as big as the head of the tool, and I think that sort of compactness is going to come in handy for some people. Now, in terms of performance specs, we're going to start with the drill first. This is going to be getting 350 inch-pounds of torque, so down about 50 inch-pounds from the M12 fuel, but a nice improvement over those M12 brush tools. I think it's going to find itself in a very capable format. For RPMs, you're going to be getting 450 down in speed 1, 1550 in speed 2. I think that range is definitely something you can work with. The chuck is going to be an all-metal 3/8 inch chuck, so you're only going to be able to accept up to a 3/8 inch diameter drill bit with this tool, kind of limiting what you can do with it by not allowing you to chuck up something just really monstrous with it. Now, the battery gauge on both tools is going to be up here on the top, and so instead of kind of on the side where we've come and get used to, this is going to be right up on the top. It creates a really nice viewpoint where you can kind of always see what the charge level of the batteries are. And then there is a belt clip on the tool. You can switch it to either side, so it is ready for ambidextrous use. That is nice. And then there's just a single LED right up over the trigger, kind of what we used to see on tools that are a little bit older. Obviously, with this being a more basic model, that's kind of what we see here. Now, the impact driver, once again, very nice and compact and tiny. This is going to get 1100 inch-pounds of torque, so it is going to be down on power a little bit than their M12 fuel models, but it is still a power increase over those M12 brush tools. This is also going to feature 3000 RPMs and 4100 impacts per minute. Now with this tool, you are not getting a quick insert collet. It is still a nice collet, but much like what they did with their M18 compacts, you are going to have to kind of pull it out to insert the bit. I think that is one of the distinguishing things that they've done to kind of separate this out from the more expensive or more premium M12 fuel varieties. They didn't want it to creep too close to it, and so that's clearly one of the places where they made the decision to not include that. Now personally, I really prefer a quick insert collet. It's not the end of the world, but I do find myself wishing that it had one. So maybe there's a conversion for that coming at some point where we try and see if we can get a quick insert collet on there from another tool. Now, in this kit, you are going to be getting two CP 2.0 batteries. So unlike what you get with the M12 brushed combo kit, that comes with 1.5 amp hour batteries. This is going to come with the 2 amp hour batteries. And then if you push up to the M12 fuel, you are going to get a 2 and a 4, I believe it is, in kind of their standard kit. I do like that they're giving you at least the CP 2.0 batteries. All right, so now let's go ahead and do some performance testing. We're not going to do a lot of time tests where we're going to sit here and tell you how long it took to drive each one. More so just kind of show you the different tests that we did. And then obviously in a future episode, we'll have to compare this to the other M12 drills and impact drivers to see how it fares. But for today, we're just going to be kind of doing some first impressions testing. All right, so with that testing, I'll kind of go through each tool and talk about my impressions. The impact driver, nice to use, and definitely a tool that I think is best suited sticking under about that 3.5-inch deck screw variety. I did have that 4-inch Simpson screw, that would be fine, but if you move it to anything that is going to be a bigger diameter, I really just don't feel like this is going to be the tool for that job. Just definitely a more light duty tool than maybe what we've seen with the M12, kind of being able to punch above its weight class a little bit. But on those lighter duty tasks, it absolutely feels great. There's good trigger feel. It is a heavier trigger, much like a lot of Milwaukee tools, but it is definitely has decent, predictable feel, and overall there's nice control on it. I do like having the battery gauge up on the top of the tool instead of the side. Being able to see it just right up on the top does create a better viewpoint in my opinion. That is something that I didn't expect to think was as nice as it was, is being able to see that up there. Now when we move over to the performance of the drill driver, I did both driving and drilling tasks. And overall, I think that the drill is a more impressive tool than the impact driver is. Not knocking the impact driver, but this one feels closer to certainly what we've gotten from M12 fuel tools in the past, specifically really that prior generation M12 fuel drill. This feels a lot like that and certainly is a capable drill. Now, we all know how much I love the current generation of M12 fuel drill. This is not going to be that, but it feels strong. It feels like it has a decent level of performance. Overall, the drill has nice feel to it. When I move over to the drilling task, it makes it through what I think a lot of people would use this size tool for. And so definitely kind of met expectations and feels torqueier necessarily. It's just not going to be a blazing performance monster in terms of speed necessarily, with kind of the slightly lower RPMs that we see on maybe more powerful tools. But overall, really nice performance. Now let's talk about the clear impression that I got with these tools, and that is when you use them, when you push them, they do get hot quickly. And because they are such compact tools, I kind of found myself finding that the air vents on some of these tools do kind of go right where I tend to hold the tool. And so you do feel that heat if you are going to push these tools. Now, if you're doing them on lighter duty tasks, just doing, 2-inch screws, 3-inch screws, I think it'll not be an issue. But if you are going to push this tool at all, it will get hot quickly. And that happened with both the drill and the impact driver. And because they are so compact, there's not really anywhere for that heat to dissipate. They just kind of get hot quickly. That's something that I think is symptomatic with a lot of Milwaukee tools, but for the most part, I've never seen it affect the tool negatively. It's just something to keep in mind that if you do intend to push these a little bit, they are going to get hot quickly. And then the other impression that I got, more so on the drill than on the impact driver, because they do kind of have an ambidextrous little spot for the belt clip to move from side to side. On the drill, I found my hand kind of creeping up, and there's just a really nice sharp point there. Definitely was not comfortable with these tools because they are so compact. If you do have bigger hands, I think you will find yourself kind of struggling to find a good place to get a good grip on them. And if you do slide up a little bit, that sharp point there kind of feels like a good candidate for kind of a little round off or maybe a little machining there to make it a little bit nicer to hold. That is one thing that just stood out. It's not a deal breaker. I just wish that maybe they had considered kind of softening those edges a little bit, given just how compact the tool is. All right, now let's talk pricing on the kit. Overall, if you buy these tools individually, they're over $100. I don't think they're really a good deal. When you buy them in a combo kit, you obviously get both tools, 2 batteries, and a charger in a bag for $199. That's going to be kind of its standard pricing. And while the M12 brush kit is $169 when it's not on sale, you routinely can get that for significantly cheaper. In fact, I picked it up this week for $99 kind of in preparation for receiving this kit and wanting to be able to compare it to it in a future video. $99 to $200 is a pretty big price jump. And when I can get the M12 fuel kit for $229 most of the time when it's not on sale, that feels like this price is creeping up a little too close to that for it to make a ton of sense, in my opinion, for a lot of people. If you're willing to spend $200 on a combo kit, maybe spend the $229 and get yourself a fuel kit that's going to have more power, more performance, just not quite as compact of size, but overall not so much bigger that it really seems like it doesn't make sense. Additionally, at this price point, you can also go ahead and get the M18 compact kit, and that has a lot more performance. Size-wise, other than the battery and the size of the battery, they're very similar in size, just a little bit bigger on both the drill driver and the impact driver, but you're getting a significantly more capable tool. Now that's obviously standard pricing. These tools just got released and they're obviously not on sale yet. When we start to see sale prices, obviously that might change how I feel about this. If you see this start coming in at $149, or maybe being able to take advantage of some other promotion and get it down just a little bit cheaper, that's where I think this starts to make a little more sense and maybe where people are going to take a chance on it. In terms of power and performance, it is a clear improvement over the M12 brush tools. It's obviously going to be more compact. This becomes a more compelling entry-level kit if they can kind of get the pricing down on certain promotions to where it makes a little more sense to purchase this over buying just the standard M12 fuel kit that's just going to be a little bit priced higher. So then overall, what do I think of these tools? Well, I think they're intriguing and compelling tools from a performance standpoint. There's just a couple of little things that I don't like as much as I thought I maybe would. They're very compact, almost to their detriment sometimes with how much heat they build up and just maybe the hand position on the tools. But they perform well, they work like a Milwaukee drill and impact driver. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see performance-wise how they stack up to those tools when we do further testing in a future video. So go ahead and let me know what you think about these tools. If you have any questions about them, ask and I'll try and get the answer for you. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. If you do subscribe, make sure to turn on notifications so you get notified whenever I put out a new video. And until next time, I'll catch you on Tinker with Tools.